Hello. All right. I am live. Okay. So I've got two screens here. It's going to move that to another screen over there. Looked like I got a smudge in my face. Anyway, I am Mark Tyson. I am the guy behind Illuminated Infamy. And I want to talk to a little bit today. We're doing Lord Byron. So, of course, when you think of Lord Byron, you think of Mary Shelley and Percy Shelley and Dr. William Polidori and all those guys. These are the guys that in the Villa Diodati in, I guess that's the way it's pronounced. It's the way I've always pronounced it. And on Lake Geneva, Switzerland, I believe that's in Switzerland, they had the year without a summer, and that's the year that Lord Byron came up with his famous we're going to write ghost stories or write ghost stories contest. And it was William Polidori was Lord Byron's personal physician that was with him. Mary Shelley was there, but she wasn't Mary Shelley yet. I think she was still Mary Wollstonecraft. Percy Shelley, and there was a couple others that were also there. Lord Byron, they were all stuck inside because, and I'm about to explain why here in just a moment, but they were all stuck inside because of Mount Tambora exploded or erupted. It was a volcano and put a bunch of ash in the air, which caused the year without a summer. So I'm going to talk about how devastating that was in just a moment. It actually snowed in England in June that year. So Mary Shelley ended up writing Frankenstein. Lord Byron was writing a story about an aristocrat who came back from the dead. He wasn't really writing a vampire story, I don't think. It had a different name than Lord Ruthven, which is anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. He got bored with it and abandoned the story. It was had a different name on it and everything, and he kind of threw it aside. And Polidori picked it up, William Polidori, and he actually wrote a story called The Vampire, which is Lord Ruthven, which is basically a thinly veiled version of Lord Byron, who was a vampire. He was the first aristocratic vampire. Now, a lot of people, when they think of Gothic literature, which this is about, and my specialty is in Gothic literature, 18th and 19th century Gothic literature. I have a master's degree in literature. When you think about that summer and the Gothic tradition, people like to lump things like Mary Shelley's Frankenstein and Bram Stoker's Dracula together, because they're both what's called an epistolary novel, which means they're told through accounts like news articles, journals, things like that, letters. That's how the story is told. It's called epistolary story. Anyway, since they're both written basically the same way in that kind of style, people think that they happened about the same time, which is not true at all. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein was written when she was just 18 or 19 years old in around 18, I think it was published in 1819, but she started in 1816 during this year without a summer. Bram Stoker's Dracula wasn't published until 1897. So they're opposite ends of the century there. The beginning of the 1800s is when Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein, and at the end is when he wrote Dracula. So The Vampire, which was written in 1816, 1817, somewhere in there, it was the first aristocratic vampire. Before then, vampires were these bloated corpses, and Lord Byron actually wrote, it's in the short today in Illuminated Infamy, he actually wrote a poem which had one of the first vampires in it, and the vampires of his poetry were only came back and fed on the people they loved the most, and it wasn't the Dracula type vampire we have today. So William Polidori wrote The Vampire, and that was basically the first one. So let me go ahead and I've got two screens here, so if you see me looking over, because I'm looking at that screen, it looks like I'm blotchy. I don't know what that is. All right, anyway, I'm trying to make sure that there's no one watching right now, but if someone pops in the chat, I want to make sure I say hi. All right, so the year without a summer. So it refers to 1816 when a severe climate anomalies caused global average temperatures to drop by 0.4 to 0.7 degrees Celsius, which is zero point 0.7 to 1 degree Fahrenheit. That doesn't sound like a lot, but that is a lot. That's on average. So this extreme weather, which devastated agriculture across northern hemisphere, was triggered by a massive 1815 eruption of Mount Tambora in Indonesia. So we'll look at some stuff that happened here. Okay, so it affected pretty much the entire planet. The effects were most intensely felt in 1816 across North America, Europe, and parts of Asia. So in the United States, New England, and upstate New York experienced snowfall. This is in June of 1816. I think I said England earlier. I meant New England. When I said that it snowed in England in 1816, I meant New England. So, yeah, quite a bit of difference there. It might have snowed in England, too. I don't know. But I was thinking of New England. Anyway, so several inches of snow were recorded in Vermont, killing off newly planted crops and earning the year the nickname 1800 and frozen to death. Or 1800 and froze to death. So that was the nickname for it. You know, people, even in hardship, tend to find their humor. I try to put some humor in the shorts occasionally on Illuminating Infamy. All right, Europe. The summer months brought constant freezing rains and gloom. The lack of sunshine and warmth led to widespread crop failures, causing massive spikes in grain prices and severe food riots, not rots, in places like Great Britain, France, and Switzerland. Asia disrupted monsoon seasons, and unseasonable cold caused massive flooding and agricultural ruin in China and India. So the cultural impact, let's see. Okay, so here's where some of my research gets into the Villa Diodati. The grim apocalyptic weather and darkened skies deeply influenced the arts and literature because the dismal weather forced many people indoors. Writers like Mary Shelley and Lord Byron spent the summer of 1816 in a rented villa near Lake Geneva, Switzerland, holding a ghost story competition. This confinement directly led to the creation of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein and John Polidori's The Vampire, which I just explained a moment ago. I'm sorry I'm not sharing my screen. I guess I should show you the stuff that I've got written down here. But anyway, so the rented villa in Lake Geneva, Switzerland, and they held the competition. Famously, Mary Shelley wrote in her journal that the story that William Polidori actually started, I don't know if we had a name, but it was about a skull-headed woman that was like a voyeur and would like peek in keyholes, and Mary Shelley said it was dreadful. So it's probably a good thing that he didn't finish that one. So he kind of didn't finish that one, and he ended up picking up Lord Byron's story and making it into The Vampire. And I don't know if I have it in the short. I probably do in the research there. But today, which is Tuesday, the 14th, I do have a couple of shorts about the Year Without a Summer that are coming up today, and they talk about the literature that came out of it. And later on, we might be coming up with the literature, literature that Polidori wrote. When it was first published, I think that happened. Actually, I think that came out Saturday or Sunday. When it was actually published, Lord Byron was pretty ticked. He was kind of ticked off at Polidori because at first it was attributed to him, and he was like, "I didn't write that." And then, he kind of got mad about it. But to be honest, he kind of was mad at Polidori anyway. Polidori was his personal physician, and by the time they got to the Villa Diodati, he was kind of tired of him. This is Lord Byron after all. He was kind of tired of William Polidori. So there's a famous story where Mary Shelley was, I can't remember, was she pregnant or she might have been pregnant, or one of them, either her or the escort, the woman who escorted Byron. I'm doing this from memory. I don't have it in front of me. So bear with me if I get something quite a little off here. But the story goes that William Polidori jumped down off the porch to help one of the women who was walking through the mud, and he slipped and twisted his ankle, and both Percy Shelley and Lord Byron made fun of him and called him, like laughing at him for slipping up, and neither one of them jumped into to help out. I think it was Mary Shelley to help out Mary Shelley walk through the mud, but he did, and of course they made fun of him. And at this point in time, he was trying to get rid of Polidori, from what I understand. But Year Without Summer, it was raining. It wasn't necessarily snowing. It was like raining, and they were stuck inside all the time. That's why they started writing the ghost stories. They were actually reading ghost stories. I think they were either French or German ghost stories that they had, and they decided to, write some. And then I don't even know if there's any record of what Percy Shelley wrote. I've never seen it. If there is one, there might be. All right, the combination, the historical legacy, the combination of famine, malnutrition, and economic ruin. I don't know why I'm tongue-tied today. Triggered mass migrations, particularly from New England to the American Midwest and in Europe. The widespread hunger exacerbated one of the worst typhus epidemics in history, which resulted in tens of thousands of deaths between 1816 and 1819. There was something like 10,000 deaths are attributed to the Year Without a Summer. 10,000 of those are like in Indonesia itself. So, okay, so how many people died from the Year Without a Summer? 100,000. I said 10,000. It was 100,000. 10,000. Okay, 100,000 people died during the Year Without a Summer globally, but 10,000 people were killed instantly by the initial blast, followed by 90,000 more who perished from starvation and disease because of the crop failures. People don't realize how bad this was, I don't think. All right. There's a story I read somewhere, too, that I did a short about it like a year ago, or very early on in Illuminated Infamy, about the Stradivarius violin, and I got a bit of pushback from it. People are saying, it's not that special. The violin's not really all that special. But it supposedly, some of the wood that was, there was a speculation, I'm trying to remember this from memory again. There was some speculation that some of the wood they used to make the Stradivarius might have been tempered during the Year Without a Summer, or like the Year Without a Summer had something to do with the way it grew or something that might have caused it. But I got some pushback when I did the Stradivarius violin short about, people can't really tell the difference between it and a regular violin. It doesn't really matter because there's only a certain amount of them still around. They're all cataloged and all tagged, and they're all worth, $1 million. So it doesn't really matter if it's better or not. I mean, it's rare, so it's collectible. How long did the cold last? The severe cold of 1816, widely known as the Year Without a Summer, lasted for roughly 3 to 5 months. During the traditional summer season, though the lingering climate impacts caused by the eruption of Mount Tambora were felt for about 2 or 3 years. All right. So this is my first live. I'm just kind of trying it out. I'm planning to do more of these. I'm kind of doing it not really early in the morning. It's like 10:30 or so in the morning. I need to do this at night because I think most of you guys are at night. But I didn't want to do this preliminary one at night because I kind of wanted to see how it worked and get on here and kind of do something and see if I could kind of get going and try it out before I, pop in like at night when everybody's going to be jumping on and talking to me. So, and making me nervous and not knowing what I'm doing. So I kind of wanted to try out. So this is kind of the preliminary run. So if you're seeing this, it's unscripted. I'm not planning on having any scripts with these. I'm just jumping in here and telling you some stuff about the research and about the short. If you want to know more about me, I have 2 degrees in English literature. I think I have that on the YouTube site on Illuminated Infamy. People ask me all the time why I do the shorts and not long form. I do long form, just not very many people watch long form. not as many as I would like anyway. Uh, and they asked me why I use AI. The reason why I use AI is because it's a lot easier to put together. I mean, when you use live, I've used my live voice a couple of times on some stuff. When you use your regular voice, there's a lot more mistakes. Although the AI does make mistakes. One thing that I wanted to explain is when I do use AI, I do go in and edit it. I don't. It's not AI slop like some people think it is. Um, I do all the research myself. I do all the writing myself. When I have the AI make the videos, I go through and I edit. I listen to every single one of them in its entirety. I don't just throw it together and just put it up because I hate that. I hate it when you see when I log into something that's interesting, like a short or something, and they wildly mispronounce things. And I'm like, oh, it's so easy. Like they'll say, like one of the big ones is read and read. The AI for some reason can't distinguish between read and read. Both of them are spelled READ. So it's like sometimes it'll say he should have read the text or something, and I have to go in. I have to write in RED, so it'll say he should have read the text. I have to go in and actually change that. So I do that, and sometimes it doesn't pronounce French very well, and I don't speak French, so a lot of those words are wrong. I know, and I have trouble getting it to say things. Or one of the things that drives me crazy is my whole channel is basically forbidden knowledge. For some reason, the AI wants to say forbidden's knowledge, and I have to go in and change the E in forbidden to an I, so it will say forbidden, and then I have to make it say forbidden, and then I have to go back in and change it back to an E, so that when you're seeing the text, the captions, that it's actually spelled correctly. So, I mean, I spend a lot of time, less time than if I made the videos with my own voice and like I'm doing right now. But I do spend time on them. I don't just throw them up. I don't make them. It's not one and done. I don't throw them together and put them there because the AI it mispronounces Byron. As today when I was making the shorts this morning, the AI was pronouncing Byron. It was pronouncing Byron just fine, and then it got to one point and it said Bayron. It said Bayron wrote darkness, and Bayron. So I changed. Sometimes you change the big B to a little b, it'll say Byron. Then you can change it back, so that people when they read it, it'll be correctly capitalized. And for some reason, when I changed it, it kept saying Byron. And so I went back and I put BYE/Ron, Byron, and it's still pronounced Byron. So finally I just put Lord Byron and it pronounced it correctly. So I was like, oh, it mispronounces stuff all the time. It drives me insane. So I do actually go in and edit everything. And that's why if it may be AI, but it's quality because a human does go back and fix everything. I try to as much as I can. Somebody pointed out recently to me that when I was doing Oscar Wilde, that I was thinking he was in Reading jail and it's pronounced reading. No, I thought it was reading jail because it's written out reading, and it's pronounced Reading jail, and they let me know. And so I went back in, I changed it, made sure that it said Reading instead of reading because it'll just read it straight out. All right, back to the Year Without Summer real quick. We go back to that. So I actually am a teacher as well. I do teach online. And so I do teach Gothic literature. And so this is not unfamiliar to me, but there are some things that during my research for the shorts today that I did come across. I was like, I didn't know that. The one thing I didn't know that's in today's short, it's in the 6 p.m. short. When I say 6 p.m., I'm talking Central. All my times are Central. So if you come and hang out with me, just if I say a time, it's going to be Central time, Central America time, like Chicago time. So the 6 p.m. Chicago Central time tonight, I think it talks about Year Without Summer, and it talks about Lord Byron writing Darkness. And To be honest, I didn't read a lot of Byron when I was in school. I read some of it, and I read some of Shelley, especially in poetry classes, but I didn't go into in depth about it. I didn't go into depth until recently. And so I had no idea that he wrote Darkness in relation to The Year Without a Summer. So there's all sorts of stuff, which reminds me the stuff that literature and arts that came out of The Year Without a Summer. I have that right here too. We of course have Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, which was conceived during this wet summer. Shelley's seminal novel drew heavily on the bleak, stormy atmosphere and contemporary scientific discussions about galvanism and life. You guys know what galvanism is? Galvanism is electricity. When they were having electrode, they would stick it to like your muscles and it'd make your hands move. The reason why Mary Shelley thought that you could jolt people back to life is because of galvanism. They could get corpses to sit up and open their eyes and open their mouth and things like that because, it's muscles run off electricity. But, the idea of jolting someone back to life, that's just science fiction. Or is it? We actually can do that. That's what defibrillators do. Like when defibrillator or your heart stops or whatever, we jolt people back to life. We just don't dig them up and stitch them together and then jolt them back to life. They kind of have to be recently dead for you to jolt them back to life. But it works. We can actually do that, which is inconceivable back then. I guess they thought, well, if you could just get enough electricity in them, like a lightning electricity, you could bring dead tissue back to life. Of course, that's not possible, but we can. If they've been dead for like a minute, we can do it. All right. Anyway, Darkness by Lord Byron was written in 1816. This apocalyptic, I said it right, poem imagines a world where the sun goes out, causing famine and extinction of humanity. So that makes sense that he wrote that during that time period. Then, of course, there's The Vampire by John William Polidori. Byron's physician. He used his employer's draft story to pen his tale, which introduced the archetype of the romantic, aristocratic vampire to English literature. So, yeah, it was the first one. Wow, it makes it look like I had no hair there. Anyway, so the visual art and beautiful haze. So J.M.W. Turner, the famous British romantic landscape painter, experienced the striking sulfurous sunsets over Europe. Okay, so there was basically there was so much ash in the sky that when you looked at the sun, it was like a little disc in a fog that seemed to never lift. And so he drew or painted this painting of the atmospheric shift. Caspar David Friedrich, the German romantic painter, used this gloomy, hazy skies of the period to create canvases filled with existential dread and uncertainty, visible in works like Two Men by the Sea. I've not seen those. Music and dark symphonies. Okay, so this is cool. That came out at that time period. We had Ludwig von Beethoven, which began his fabled late period and completed his pioneering song cycle of Ein die Führende Gelieb. I can't pronounce it. I took German in college, but Die Führende Geliebte. I don't know. To be distant, beloved is what it is in English. It's been a long time since I've spoken German or even tried to speak German. All right, and then, of course, Franz Schubert composed the dark, dramatic cantata Prometheus and was immensely productive, churning out dozens of lieder and choral works from his studio. Cool. So that's kind of some of the stuff that happened. All right. The Year Without a Summer, its effect on art and literature. Okay. Oh, okay, I'm going to share my screen on this because this is the picture of, see if I can share a screen. I don't know. I don't know if you can see that or not. Oh. There we go. That's not exactly what I wanted to do. Okay, let me try it again. That was just some notes that I had. Let's see. I shall try again. Oh, here we go. There we go. Okay, there's the picture I was just talking about, the painting from J.M.W. Turner with the haze. Okay. This is the site that I'm on here. Just to look at this for a second is Byron's Muse, in case you're wondering where I'm at and what I'm doing here. Okay, let me figure out in a second. There we go. Okay, now I can see that. Okay, so Year Without Summer, its effect on art and literature. All right, so I'm on Byron's Muse. Like I said, I'm in Byron Week. If you happen to watch this, at the end of this, which I'm probably going to end here, probably about 10 minutes or so, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to be doing next week. And it's something that I'm pretty excited about that I've been researching. Okay, so I researched these 2 weeks in advance. So I already know what's going to happen next. I already know what I'm going to do next week and the week after. So, of course I do it ahead of time. I usually do the shorts sometimes the day of. Like I'm kind of behind right now on producing them. So I kind of do the shorts on the day of. But usually I do those like 2 or 3 days in advance, ahead of time. So, but anyway, if you have any questions or anything, just put it in the comments and I'll answer it as we go along. Like I said, I want to do more of these, but I want to do it on a certain time of the week. I'm probably going to start doing these on Fridays. I'll look for a good time on Fridays, probably in the evening. I would say probably at least 10 or 11 p.m. Central Time, because it seems like a lot of you guys are on the internet or looking at stuff at about that time. Maybe 9 p.m., maybe 9 through 11 or something like that. A couple of hours. We can talk about whatever we're looking at as far as Illuminated Infamy goes. We could talk about, I can take requests. I put out a couple of posts about requests if you guys wanted me to do anything, with the occult or with cult authors. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but I have a certain weekly schedule I follow. Like, for example, today is Terrifying Text Tuesdays. So all the shorts today will be about texts, usually terrifying texts or texts that have something terrifying in them. So I start off on Friday. I go Friday through Thursday. Thursday is the deep dive. Fridays are Banned Cursed Book Friday. So we talk about, if we're doing authors, or even occult, where we talk about what they've written that's banned. Saturday is Lost or Burned Knowledge, and that has to do with either books or it could be knowledge, like burning the Library of Alexandria, or Lord Byron's books were burned by his friends after he passed away. Sunday is Supernatural Sunday, so that has something to do with supernatural stuff, either supernatural events or supernatural books or stories that they've written, that the authors have written, if I'm talking about authors. Monday is Missing or Scandalous Author Monday. So if the author is missing, we talk about them being missing. Most of the time it's scandal. So that's the day, like yesterday, for example, which was Monday, we talked about Lord Byron and his half-sister, the scandal. So it's Scandalous Author Monday. Tuesday is Terrifying Text. Wednesday is Strange But True. So tomorrow, the shorts will be about stories that are strange about whatever the topic is. In this case, it's Lord Byron. But they're true stories. They're verified and documented. So another thing, all my stuff is verified and documented. I don't really speculate on things that aren't, documented. But anyway, just want to let you guys know about that. I do have a themed week. So that might help you in case you haven't figured it out. Or if you've been on the site long enough, you might have figured it out that I do those things, that I do it towards in a theme. All right, so that's the painting that I was talking about. Okay, so these websites. All right, I guess I can end this. I just wanted to show you the painting. and show you what it looked like. So apparently, during the year without summer, the sun would be like mired in this foggy haze. I've seen other not paintings that have done this style as well. So let me go ahead and stop the sharing here. Okay, man, I really do look splotchy. I'm sorry. Might have shaved too rough or something. I have a 4K camera, and I'm probably a little too close, and it's picking up everything. So I don't know why I look all splotchy, but I didn't put on any kind of makeup or anything. But I look really bad. Sorry. Sorry. First time you're seeing me, you're probably scared. All right. So we've been on here for about 30 minutes or so, and we'll probably go ahead and end it soon. Like I said, this is my preliminary test run. Yeah, we've been on here 30 minutes. This is my preliminary test run to see if I can get on and if my camera works and my microphone works and all that stuff, and get on here, talk about the year without summer a little bit. All right, so I think I covered everything. I told you at the end I would tell you who was going to be the topic next week. Next week I'm doing Roald Dahl. Charlie Chocolate Factory dude. Roald Dahl. The reason why is because I did a short a while back about Roald Dahl and Roald Dahl, and it's been very popular. And I even got a comment on it like yesterday or day before that was talking about because he was kind of a nasty person. His wife Patricia Neal called him nasty and stuff like that. But anyway, I've found a lot of cool stuff in the research about Roald Dahl. And he wrote all these great stories. James and the Giant Peach, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and the BFG, and all that stuff. And beloved stories. But he was supposedly a really kind of nasty guy in real life. But we'll let you make up your mind when you see all the shorts I have coming up on him next week. But that's what I'm doing next week is Roald Dahl. Anyway, if you have any questions, just leave them down in the comments, and I'll answer them. Right at this point, I pretty much can see every comment, so I respond to every comment. And the channel going forward, I've been trying to think about whether or not I want to use my real face, my real voice. I may actually start doing that at some point, and the reason why is because my channel is mostly faceless. But it doesn't have to be all faceless. Obviously, I can pop in. I'm a teacher. I'm not scared of. I teach on Zoom, so I'm not opposed to jumping on here and talking to you guys and doing live streams and all this kind of stuff. It's perfectly okay with me. The only reason I do the way I do with the live streams, with the shorts and using the AI, is because it's easier. The hard part is all the research. All right, I'll tell you one more story, and then I'll let you go. I watched, like some of you probably out there, watched the Y-Files with AJ Gentile, or Gentile. I don't know how to pronounce his name, Gentle or Gentile. I've heard it pronounced both ways. Anyway, AJ, I've only talked to him briefly in email. I really haven't talked to him in real life or anything, but I saw back in the old days, in the early days of the Y-Files, how he was working himself to death. And he didn't really have a staff. He's kind of like he was kind of like I am now, just me doing all the research on it by himself, and he was writing all the stuff himself. And so he was working himself to death. And so when I started my channel and started working on Illuminated Infamy, I had decided that I'm going to make it easier, and I'm not going to kill myself over it. I'm going to go in the in-depth research and all the verified documentation like he did, but when I present it, I'm not going to necessarily be a performer and perform it the same way. Plus, I didn't want to be a clone of the Y-Files anyway. I don't have a fish or anything talking here next to me, but he just says he's a guy talking to a fish. That's what he always says. But anyway, So when I did mine, I didn't, obviously I didn't want to copy off of him. Mine's completely different anyway. There's only a few topics that kind of intertwine with Eliminate Infamy and Wildfowls. For some reason, on vidIQ, when I do check my stats and stuff, it always puts the Wildfowls in my competition lane, and it's like I have like a little bit over 1,000 subscribers. He has 5 million, so it's like it puts me in that same category. And I'm like, I'm not even in that category at all. Don't put me in that category. That's completely strange to me because it's like I'm not even in his league. So at least not yet. So I will start working maybe on, if this is successful, we'll definitely pop in on Fridays and maybe talk about the week behind or maybe the week ahead of topics and just discuss things and jump in with some live. That way I'm not a totally faceless channel. And, I'm not opposed to AI, obviously, but I understand that AI can get kind of, I don't know, after a while. It might be hard to listen to it after a while. I tried to pick the best voice the most soothing voice I could think of. I went through a lot of those voices, and I avoided all of the ones that you see out here all the time, and I tried to pick one that was soothing, that wasn't going to just be irritating. But anyway, all right, well, I'm going to get off here, and I would say this is probably a success. I can actually get on, and I'm actually in frame and stuff, so I'm not sitting down like here or up here. You can actually see me, and I can actually talk to you, and it looks like it works out okay. So even though I don't see any people I can interact with here, at least I don't think there's anybody on. But if you watch this is just the dry run. This is my dry run stream. So if you have any question or anything, let me know in the comments, and I will see you, I guess, in the next live stream, maybe this Friday coming up, which is the 17th, maybe. Okay, see you then.